everybody, this is Ramon El Magnifico and welcome once again to the Famous Pipe Smoker Friday show today, this Friday, this week is episode 19. So tonight's Famous Pipe Smoker is Mr. Moe Howard, that's right, of the Three Stooges, Moe Howard. Moe Howard was born on June 19th, 1897 in Bensonhurst, New York, a small Jewish community on the outskirts of Brooklyn. Moe's real name was Moses Horowitz. Moe's mother, Jeannie, and his father was a clothing cutter. His name was Solomon. Moe was the fourth eldest of five Howard brothers. Two of Moe's brothers, Jerome Curley and Samuel Shemp, performed with him as members of the Three Stooges. Moe's other two brothers, Jack and Irving, never entered show business. Moe graduated from PS 163 in Brooklyn. He attended Erasmus High School for only 2 months and never completed his high school education. To please his parents, he took a class in electronic shop at the Baron de Hersht Trade School in New York. Moe's true love, however, was the theater. In 1909, at the Vitagraph Studios in Brooklyn, he earned his entry into filmmaking by running errands for the performers. His persistence paid off, and he soon appeared in films with such stars of the time as John Bunny, Flora Finch, Earl Williams, Herbert Rawlinson, and Walter Johnson. It was also in 1909 that Moe met Ted Healy. They became close friends, and in the summer of 1912 joined Annette Kellerman's aquatic act as diving girls. This job only lasted through the summer, and Moe continued his attempts at gaining show business experience by singing in a bar with his older brother Shemp until their father put a stop to it. And in 1914, he joined a performing minstrel show troupe on a Mississippi River showboat for the next 2 summers. In 1921, he joined Ted Healy in a vaudeville routine. In 1923, Moe saw Shemp in the audience during a theater performance and yelled at him from the stage. Shemp responded by heckling Moe, and the two brothers' amusing bickering during the performance resulted in Healy immediately hiring Shemp Howard as a permanent part of the act. On June 7, 1925, Moe married Helen Schoenberger and retired from show business and went into real estate with his mother. Meanwhile, Healy's act with Shemp went on to national fame in the Schubert Brothers' A Night in Spain, which had a successful Broadway run, as well as national tour. During A Night in Spain and the end of a 4-month run in Chicago, Illinois, Healy recruited vaudeville violinist Larry Fine to join the troupe in March of 1928. After the show ended in late November, Healy signed for the Schubert's new revue, A Night in Venice, and recruited Moe Howard out of retirement to rejoin the act in December 1928. In rehearsals in early 1920, Moe, Larry Fine, and Shemp Howard came together for the first time as a trio. When A Night in Venice closed in March 1930, Healy and the trio toured for a while as Ted Healy and his Racketeers, and they later changed the name to Ted Healy and his Stooges. Healy and his Stooges, or Ted Healy and his Stooges, were on the verge of hitting the big time and made their first movie, Soup to Nuts, in 1930, featuring Healy and his four Stooges. Moe, at the time going by Harry Howard, Shemp, Larry, and Fred Sanborn. Sanborn had been with Healy's troupe since January of 1929 as one of the Stooges in A Night in Venice. They made the film for Fox Films, which later became 20th Century Fox. A disagreement with Healy led Moe, Larry, and Shemp to strike out on their own as Howard, Fine, and Howard, and on August 28, 1930, they premiered that act at LA's Paramount Theater. Joining the RKO vaudeville circuit, they toured for almost 2 years, eventually dubbing themselves as Three Lost Souls, and taking on Jack Walsh as their straight man. In July 1932, Moe, Larry, and Shemp were approached by Healy to rejoin him for the new Schubert Broadway Review passing show of 1932, and the three accepted the offer. On August 16, 1932, during passing rehearsals in New York, Ted walked out on the Schuberts over a contract dispute. On January 19, 1932, Shemp gave his notice, having not seen eye to eye with the hard-drinking and sometimes belligerent Healy, and decided to remain with Passing, which closed in September. After panned reviews of his first roadshow performances in Detroit and Cincinnati, Shemp landed at Vitaphone Studios in Brooklyn in May 1933, where he stayed for almost 4 years. On August 20th, the day after Shemp's departure, Moe suggested adding his younger brother Jerome, nicknamed Babe, to the act. Healy originally passed on Jerry, but Jerry was so eager to join the act that he shaved off his luxuriant auburn mustache and hair and ran on stage during Healy's routine. That finally got Healy to hire Jerome, who took the stage name of Curly. The new lineup of Moe, Larry, and Curly premiered with Ted on stage at Cleveland's RKO Palace on August 27, 1932. Early in 1933, during appearances in Los Angeles, Healy and the Stooges were hired by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer as Nut Comics to liven up feature films and short subjects with their antics. After a number of appearances in MGM films, Healy was being groomed as a solo character. With Healy pursuing his own career in 1934, his Stooges, now renamed the Three Stooges, signed with Columbia Pictures, where they stayed until December 1957, making 190 comedy shorts. With Healy's departure, Moe assumed Healy's prior role as the aggressive, take-charge leader of the Three Stooges. A short-tempered bully prone to slapstick violence against the other two Stooges. Despite his outwardly rather cruel demeanor towards his pals, Moe was also very loyal and protective of the other Stooges on film, keeping them from harm and, should it befall them, doing whatever it took to save them. He emphasized in his 1977 book that the ill-tempered aspects of his on-screen persona did not reflect his real personality. He also boasted of being a shrewd businessman by wisely investing the money made from his film career. But the Stooges received no subsequent royalties or residuals from any of their many shorts. They were paid a flat amount for each one, and Columbia owned the rights and profits thereafter. Columbia released the first Three Stooges shorts, Woman Haters, in 1934, where their Stooge characters were not quite fully formed. It was not a Stooge comedy in the classic sense, but rather a romantic farce. Columbia was then making a series of two real musical novelties with the dialogue spoken in rhyme, and the Stooges were recruited to support comedian Marjorie White. Only after the Stooges became established as short subject stars were the main titles changed to give the Stooges top billing. The version seen on TV and video today is this reissued print. Their next film, Punch Drunks, was the only short film written entirely by the Three Stooges, with Curly as a reluctant boxer who goes ballistic every time he hears "Pop Goes the Weasel." Their next short, Men in Black, a parody of the contemporary hospital drama Men in White, was their first and only film to be nominated for an Academy Award, with the classic catchphrases, "Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard," followed by their reiterated unison declaration as young doctors, "For duty and humanity." They continued making short films at a steady pace for 8 per year. In the 1940s, the Three Stooges became topical, making several anti-Nazi short films, including "You Nasty Spy," and most favorite Three Stooges film, "I'll Never Heil Again." And they stooged to Conga. Most impersonation of Adolf Hitler highlighted these shorts, the first of which preceded Charlie Chaplin's film satire, The Great Dictator, by months. On May 6, 1946, during the filming of Half-Wit's Holiday, Brother Curly suffered a stroke. He had already suffered a series of them before and was replaced by Shemp, who agreed to return to the group, but only until Curly would be well enough to rejoin. Although Curly recovered enough to appear in Hold That Lion in 1947 in a cameo appearance, the only Three Stooges film to contain all three Howards, Moe, Curly, and Shemp, he soon suffered a second series of strokes, which led to his death at age 48 on January 18, 1952. After Shemp rejoined the act, the Three Stooges shot a television pilot for ABC called Jerks of All Trades in 1949. Apparently intended to lead to a weekly sitcom series on the premise that the Stooges would try a different job or business every week, hoping that eventually one of their attempts would be successful. Anything they tried turned out to be a fiasco, which was the source of the comedy. The pilot took a single day to film and was never aired. B.B. Kahane, Columbia Pictures Vice President of Business Affairs, stopped the show from being broadcast. Kahane warned the Stooges that a contract stipulation restricted them from performing in a television series that might compete with their two real comedies. Columbia further threatened to cancel the boys' contract and take them to court if they tried to sell the series. To avert a legal hassle, the pilot was shelved and the project abandoned. The Kinescope film is now in the public domain and widely available, in case you want to see it. The Three Stooges series of shorts continued to be popular through the 1950s. Shemp co-starred in 73 comedy shorts. And on November 22nd, 1955, sadly, Shemp died of a heart attack at age 60, necessitating the need for another Stooge. Columbia head Harry Cohn hired Joe Besser in 1956. According to Moe's autobiography, Moe wanted a two Stooge act, and it was Cohn's idea, not Howard's, to replace Shemp as part of the act. Joe Besser was already an established Columbia comedy short star in his own right and frequent movie supporting player. Joe, Larry, and Moe filmed 16 shorts through December of 1957. Shortly before Cohn's death in February 1958, the making of short subjects came to an end, and to keep himself busy, Moe was hired by Harry Rom as associate producer. Columbia sold the Three Stooges library of short films to television under the Screen Gems name, and with this, the Three Stooges quickly gained a new audience of young fans. Ever the businessman, Moe Howard put together a new Three Stooges act. This time with burlesque and screen comic Joe DeRita, named Curly Joe because of his vague resemblance to Curly and to differentiate him from Joe Besser. As the new third Stooge, DeRita, who, like Shemp and Joe Besser, had also starred in a series of his own comedy shorts, the revitalized trio starred in 6 feature-length movies. Have Rocket Will Travel, which came out in 1959, Snow White and the Three Stooges, which came out in 1961, The Three Stooges Meet Hercules, and The Three Stooges in Orbit, which came out in 1962. The Three Stooges Go Around the World in a Daze, which came out in 1963, and The Outlaws Is Coming in 65. Moe, Larry, and Curly Joe continued to make live appearances, many notable guest appearances, particularly in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which came out in 1963, in which they appeared as 3 firemen who appear for only a few seconds, and a longer appearance in 4 for Texas, starring Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. The men tried their hand at a children's cartoon show titled The New Three Stooges, with the cartoons sandwiched between live-action segments of the Stooges filmed in color. When the Three Stooges shorts began to appear on local children's shows in the late 1950s, there was a wave of kids poking each other in the eye. When Moe heard about this, it was the Stooges who came to the rescue. They went on many local television shows as well as national television shows, and they showed how the eye pokes were done in a way that nobody got hurt. To the kids, this was like watching or like learning a magic trick. During this period, Moe and the Stooges appear on numerous television shows, including The Steve Allen Show, Here's Hollywood, The Ed Sullivan Show, The Joey Bishop Show, and Truth or Consequences. But by the late 1960s, they were all at an age where they could no longer risk serious injury while performing slapstick comedy. The Three Stooges attempted to make a final film in 1969, Cook's Tour, which was essentially a documentary of Moe, Larry, and Curly Joe out of character, touring the US and meeting with fans. But production abruptly halted when on January 9th of 1970, Larry Fine suffered a major stroke during filming, paralyzing the left side of his body. Larry died on January 24th, 1975 at age 72. Enough footage of Larry was shot so that Cook's Tour was eventually released in a 52-minute version to home video. Moe Howard died of lung cancer at age 77 on May 4, 1975, just over 3 months after Larry and more than a month before his 78th birthday. He was interred in an outdoor crypt at Culver City's Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery. His wife, Helen Schoenberger, died of a heart attack later that year on October 31st, 1975, at the age of 75, and was interred in the crypt next to her husband on the right. When Moe died, the act ended. But at the time of his death, Moe was working on his autobiography titled I Stooged to Conquer. It was released in 1977 as Moe Howard and the Three Stooges. Moe Howard and the Three Stooges received a start on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on August 30th, 1983. All right. That's it for this week's episode. My thanks to the3stooges.com and Wikipedia for the bio. I want to thank you all for watching. Were you a fan of the Three Stooges? Did you know that Moe was a pipe smoker? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date when my new videos pop up, like more episodes of the Famous Pipe Smoker Friday Show and my movie reviews. Stay tuned for this week when I will be reviewing Toy Story 4 and Child's Play. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DL Magnifico, and until next time, may God bless you all. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Ciao.